typically advise that within the quarter, it's generally no issue going back and getting those credit rebills. Anything outside of the current quarter, I would get permission from the manufacturer. I would just be very transparent and let them know what you're trying to do and work with the manufacturer on that and work with us on that. The wholesalers, one of the issues that we deal with are the credit rebills. And so if you're coming back to us and you're saying, hey, we want to go back a year and get credit rebills on this product that we've missed our savings on, then that's going to require extra manpower, extra time for us to do those credit rebills. So that's something that may be considered as well. There may be a processing fee involved with that. So I just wanted to point that out. You're going to hear different things. You might hear everything from you have to go back in order to be compliant, you have to go all the way back, to you snooze, you lose. There's that spectrum there. I would just say be transparent. Be transparent with the manufacturer especially. Contract pharmacy setup. This is another area where, since they've opened it up to where you can have multiple contract pharmacies, I've seen places that want to have every contract pharmacy from Alaska over to New York and just grab as many contract pharmacies as they can. One of the issues that you want to think about, one is compliance, because ultimately it's the covered entity's responsibility to be compliant. So each one of those contract pharmacies need to be set up correctly. But secondly, as a wholesaler's role, our biggest cost, our biggest expense are deliveries. So if you're signing on 30 contract pharmacies and you don't include the wholesaler in that conversation, you may get shocked when you get some kind of delivery fee or some kind of restriction on how many deliveries that we can send out to that little pharmacy, 30 miles from nowhere. So just make sure you include the wholesaler in that. One other point I would like to make is each one of those contract pharmacies are generally going to be a different account. So your accounting will be quite different if you have 30 new accounts that you're trying to keep up with that are all these ship to, bill to accounts. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. As far as ongoing maintenance, we load your contracts on a quarterly basis. The 340B program contracts are loaded on a quarterly basis. From time to time, if a contract doesn't get loaded, or if maybe it gets loaded and you feel like, hey, that should be lower than what it states, then that's the role of the wholesaler. You can come back to us and you can say this contract either isn't loaded, I think it should be, or it's a lower price. And the wholesaler will look into that. They will go to the manufacturer and verify the pricing. And if the pricing is incorrect, then credit rebills will be issued. One thing I put up here was at the bottom there, you see the 340B ceiling price, the formula for that. I'm not going to get too deep into that because we can make head spin with this. But if you look in there, AMP is part of that. The average manufacturer price is part of the ceiling price, how they come to that price. So AMP has a 6-month lag on the finalization of AMP. So for quarter one, they won't know what the official AMP was for quarter one until quarter three. So if AMP is lowered in quarter three for quarter one, if that's lost anyone, I'm sorry. But if AMP gets lowered, then that ultimately lowers the ceiling price for that quarter. The manufacturers will give you a credit for the difference. So if you paid a higher ceiling price than what you should have for that quarter, you will get a credit. That will come back through Apex's and through your wholesaler. And most often what you'll see is you'll see the credit that will say Apex, at least for us, we put Apex's and we put the name of the manufacturer that you're getting the credit for. Last topic on the ongoing maintenance, the recertification. I know Lisa's mentioned that as well. Recertification is required now on an annual basis. One of the points I wanted to make clear is that you need to know who your administrator is that's listed on the HRSA website. I know that we've had some accounts where the administrator has left and his email is what's being used to send out, hey, you need to recertify. So nobody's getting the email. So you want to make sure that that information is up to date, that you get the email, that you verify that all the information is correct, and if it's not correct, it could cause you to become ineligible in the program. If you do become ineligible, if something happens where you lose your eligibility, it's going to be up to you, the covered entity, to notify your wholesaler and to stop the program immediately. The wholesaler may not know until the next quarter when HRSA updates the database. So it's important to stop so that you don't have to pay back those savings or even get penalized. Finally, I wanted to talk about some other wholesaler roles, and that top one there, consultation. That's one of those that it's a no-brainer to get some consultation from your wholesaler. My company has over 100 340B accounts. We've seen pretty much every type of setup. We've seen the contract pharmacy, we've seen the parent-child relationships. So we've seen all that. So if you are starting into this, talk to your wholesaler rep. What other customers do you have that are doing this? Get some ideas of how they do it, and it'll help you. How did they set up their account? Do I add a billing address? I mean, what do I do on the HRSA website? So you can get help in that way. One of the other things I would suggest is when you're first starting up operationally, we talk about split bill software. We have our own split bill software. Most wholesalers do have their own split bill software, and it's nice to use because you're already using their ordering system, and those two systems have to interact. But if you're using a third-party software, you'll also need to talk to your wholesaler, because we're going to have to produce the files that go to the software and back to the ordering platform. But one of the things I always advise on account setup, if you're just now starting your account, standard operating procedures. It's so important to write down all your processes and make sure you are on top of your processes and how you're staying compliant. With these audits that are occurring, you don't want an auditor to walk in and you don't have anything written down about your procedures or policies dealing with 340B. So that's one of the nuggets of information I'll throw your way. And lastly, audit reports. When you do get audited, wholesalers are great for helping you run those reports, getting the information that's needed so that you can have a good audit. And my CE question is, the wholesaler is notified by HRSA when a covered entity becomes ineligible. True or false? Or false. Thanks.